Hello everybody and welcome to another video here at Dunwich Legacy Week. We are going to talk about the lore of Dunwich Legacy. I made a little outline and Travis made it great. So this is all like, for all this stuff...
I just colored it in.
Yeah, just connected a few dots.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about the lore for this campaign, and then we are going to be doing something fun at the end of this video as well to go further anticipation for the rest of Dunwich Legacy Week. So we're just going to go through. Well, we might not stop too many on too many of these things, but we might do a few of them here. But just give you some context of what this campaign is about in the actual Lovecraft mythos.
Yeah, as much fun as it would be to just stop on like the train one and just start explaining steam engine.
Yes, yeah, go back. So there's these things called train that they use to travel all across America.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be major spoilers for this game.
Yes, 100%, yeah. Which is actually kind of funny because the backstory kind of just like spoils the whole thing for the most part.
Yeah, but it's different this time.
Yes, it's different this time. So, what is the Dunwich Legacy based on? The Dunwich Legacy is intended as a sequel to H.P. Lovecraft's short story, The Dunwich Horror. You can tell because the first two words are actually the same.
Yeah.
The original story follows the Whatley family, focused on Wilbur Whatley, a deformed man who matures at an abnormal rate. Correct me if I'm wrong, Travis, but I'm pretty sure he's 11 or something at the time that
he's like 10.
Yeah, at the time that he's
fully grown.
Yeah.
And he's also albino, I think.
Yes, he is albino. Yeah. So
yeah, he's a weird one.
So you might recognize Whatley from the Whatley runes from the actual campaign. If you've played it, which if you haven't played it, you should stop watching this video. As Travis said,
you're gonna find out why the runes real soon.
Dunwich locals start to become suspicious as Wilbur's grandfather, Noah Whatley, referred to as Old Whatley, continues to buy cattle, but his herd never grows. The cattle he does have begin to show signs of injury, most notably gaping wounds. You must understand, they'll notice this because they don't have television or games to play. Like, they're going to be like, this guy's farm ain't changing.
That cow have that hole in it yesterday?
Yeah, I don't think so. Suspicion continues to grow as cattle continues to disappear, as does Wilbur's mother, Lavinia Whatley. Secretly, the Whatleys have sequestered an entity connected to Yog Sothoth within their farmhouse. So, Travis, I haven't actually read the short story for this. I know, right? Isn't that wild?
Okay.
Is this, like, how is it, like, paced for this kind of reveal? Is it, like... is it like pretty quick that there's something weird happening on the farm, or is it like kind of...
Yeah, there's like a little bit of backstory talking about the town's and family history a little bit, and then there's a fair bit of just kind of meandering until this point where the story really starts to pick up is Halloween, 1927, 1928, something like that, when Lavinia Whatley goes missing. Yeah, and a couple of the other characters. Earl Sawyer plays a pretty noble part actually in the story in terms of the people who live in Dunwich, keeping tabs on the Dunwich property, and kind of he's one who notices the cows having holes in them. He's like, hey, wait a minute. That's weird.
Cows ain't supposed to have that.
Yeah.
Not normally.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah, it's where it starts to really pick up.
Yeah. And then things go crazy pretty quick. Old Whatley, revealed to be a sorcerer, tutors Wilbur in dark arts and sorceries with the help of the family's collection of eldritch tomes, including a damaged copy of the dreaded Necronomicon.
Yeah, it's probably translated by like that John D. Idiot or whatever.
I think it is. I can't remember if it's a Latin or an English copy.
After Old Whatley's death, he dies, by the way, Wilbur sets out for Arkham to obtain the university's copy of the Necronomicon, one of the few complete copies left in the world. So it's like the good translation. It's actually also, if you, again, notice for the actual campaign, this is the one that you go seek out in the Miskatonic Museum, I imagine.
Yep.
It's the same one there.
Yeah, it's like the actual good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Wilbur wants to summon an extra dimensional being to kind of fulfill Noah Whatley's work.
Yep.
And the parts of the old Necronomicon that he has, there's chunks missing. It's damaged, so he's like, I want to go check the complete one and make sure that I'm doing this right.
Sweet.
It's not really something you want to half-ass.
No, you don't. No, if you're doing any sort of eldritch ritual, make sure you're doing it like 100%.
Yes.
100%. Yeah.
You should get instructions from a book wrapped in human skin.
Yes. Yeah, don't go to that John Dee translation.
No, that guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
No, he does not. However, our hero, Dr. Henry Armitage, who we all know and love, except when he is trying to outsmart us in the detective game.
Look, I mean, just because he's like, I saw a raccoon cross the street, and that meant that the people at the church were doing this, and you're like,
He's really good at what he does.
I'm sorry, how did that mean that?
Yeah. But Dr. Armitage, the head librarian, refuses to allow Wilbur access to the Forbidden Tome. But Wilbur, not to be stopped, breaks into the library at night to steal it, but he's attacked and killed by a guard dog. Yes, that actual guard dog.
He's only got one hit point. He's like, not good.
No.
Yeah, so Wilbur, the reason he breaks into the library, you might be like, why doesn't he go find one of the other copies? There aren't that many, but not only does Henry Armitage tell him to, go pound sand or whatever, because he's a Wildling, and he's like, I know you guys. He also sends out letters to all the other libraries that have copies of Necronomicon that he knows about and tells them, like, don't let this guy look at it.
Yeah.
He's going to do bad
things. You can
things.
tell who he is because he's, like, kind of deformed and goat-like.
Yeah, you'll immediately know.
Yeah.
I can get too many albino guys coming in there that are, like, slightly deformed who are asking about the Necronomicon, but if you do, don't let them see it.
And they always open the conversation with, hi, I'm 10 years old.
Yes.
Dr. Armitage, Professor Warren Rice, and Dr. Francis Morgan discover the novice sorcerer's mutilated body only to see it melt away before their eyes. Classic weird horror. Things are messed up here. The body just slowly melts away, nice and good. But then, things start going bad back at Watley Farm. And as Travis said, this is why we find out they're the Watley runes. With no one to tend to the entity in the Watley farmhouse, it escapes, exploding the building as it breaks free. This monster, invisible to the naked eye, rampages across Dunwich, causing death and destruction over several days. Sucks for Dunwich, I guess.
Yep, several people die, like some policemen they call in get killed as well.
Probably a lot of cattle, too, get crushed, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, eaten.
Yeah.
That's what likes to eat.
I mean, they are tasty, yeah. So what you're telling me, this is where all the cattle were going. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Good job, Justin.
They should call me Dr. Henry Armitage. Yeah. Eventually, the trio of professors arrive at Dunwich with the knowledge and tools to kill the monster. They use an invisible powder to make the beast visible. That might sound familiar to you. But unlike what happens in the game, something different happens. This one, the beast babbles in an unknowable tongue before crying out in English for help from its father, Yog Sothoth. Yeah. The Dunwich Horror dies, and the story ends revealing that the Dunwich Horror was Wilbur's twin brother, but took after their father significantly more than Wilbur, which honestly is a banger, closing to the short story.
Yes.
It's a good, stinger at the end.
You're like, that's why Wilbur's all weird and technically, and also why that thing doesn't, he got more. He got 75% of the human, the other guy got 25%.
Yes, yeah. So, you'll actually notice a lot of similar story beats to, the short story, and it really made me appreciate the early days of Arkham when it actually was just a direct translation of something, because it hits all the beats, and even more, we're going to get a little bit deeper into this as well.
Yeah, it's a little bit deeper than just the short story.
Yeah. So, as I say, it pulls plenty of inspiration from the original story. However, many characters, events, and monsters from the Dunwich Horror, as well as a few other Lovecraftian works, make a reappearance. So let's start talking about all this. We have the three characters, the story assets that we earn in the campaign. One of them usually gets kidnapped. Dr. Henry Armitage, Professor Warren Rice, and Dr. Francis Morgan. This is the really cool kind of sequel thing where it's the same characters, but they're not the leads of the story this time. In fact, they're very likely to get put into a sack and then die, right? So that's a really cool thing they did with this.
Yep.
Yeah.
These guys don't actually have a ton. I mean, Dr. Henry Armitage has a fair amount of characterization, as he's a prominent recurring character across a lot of Lovecrafts and extended Lovecraft stories. Whereas Professor Warren Rice and Francis Morgan make the occasional appearance, but they are mostly just the professors that happened to be around when they heard the dog killing.
Okay, and then they were just involved by association to
Pretty
that
much.
event. Yeah.
I love the artwork they chose to represent the three of these. We got Dr. Henry Armitage, who's so old, it's amazing he's still alive and mobile.
He's also freaking out.
Freaking the fuck out. And Warren Rice, who's probably couldn't find his way out of his own office.
Nope.
And Dr. Francis Morgan, who's like, things back, I'll get my gun.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, Dr. Francis Morgan is young enough for it to be notable in the story, whereas the other two are like.
Well, he has to be. He's a professor of archaeology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they tend to die young.
It'd be too
Indiana
easy
Jones
if you were
taught me
there when it
anything.
happened.
Also, we have Earl Sawyer, as Travis said. He actually has a pretty big characterization in the book. He's a Dunwich local and joins the crew for facing the Dunwich Horror. He's one of the remaining witnesses to the original horror, and he tends the farm in Wilbur's absence and gladly helps professors when they come to Dunwich.
Yeah, of course he gladly helps them, though. Like, he just inherited an entire farm.
Yep, that's true. Yeah.
Well, he owns his own farm in the first one.
Yeah, but now he has 2 farms.
Kind of, not really. They don't really want to go to the Whately farm. There's a couple other Sawyers in the original story. I think one of them is like Sally Sawyer. I think is his wife or something like that, and he gets information through her because she's like the housekeeper at the neighbor's house or some shit, which is the two ass guys, Silas and
Seth. Yeah.
Their farm is
Okay,
actually,
the Bishop farm, yeah.
Yeah, the Bishop farm. Yeah.
Yeah. Also in the book, there is Zebulon Whatley. He is a Dunwich local and joins the crew for facing the Dunwich Horror.
He's of the undecayed Whateleys.
Yeah.
No, he's like a little bit decayed.
A member of...
Because he's old.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, he's a member of the partially decayed branch of the Whatley family who is familiar with the sorcery but doesn't practice it.
Yeah, there's like multiple groups, the Whatleys, and some of them are like Wilbur's family are like doing dark magic. Some of them, like Zebulon Whatley's family, are they're aware of that stuff and their family's history, which can be traced back to the original founder of Dunwich as a town. I forget the guy's name, but he basically started the entire industry, and started an industry, and the entire town sprang up around it. And then once he died, it all kind of fell apart, and that's where they're at now. Why people keep leaving, and say you have he was pretty into the dark arts and sorcery stuff, and that's why you get some chunks of the family who are following his footsteps. Others that like know what's going on, like Zebulon Whately's, and then there's other mostly unnamed groups of Whatleys who just kind of turn a blind eye to it.
Yeah, I am messing with that.
Yeah,
I am messing with that. Additionally, as Travis said, there's also the bishops. In the book, they're not evil though. They're Dunwich locals.
Yet.
Yeah, but they saw it and they're like, you know what we should do? We should run that back. Let's run that back.
Yeah. They're like, I'm better than the Wilbur. I can do that. I can do that.
Silas, you want to see what this is all about?
Show me the book.
So, they're Dunwich locals. Their cattle was mained by the Dunwich Horror, and Seth Bishop is the Whatley's neighbor and owns the property nearest theirs. I do like how it's like, you know, like it makes sense that like they went for like, because they actually could have feasibly gone either direction, right? They could have had like the Sawyers go crazy or the Bishops go crazy. But I like the Bishops one too, because it's like closest to that source of evil, you know, like maybe they get like drawn in because of that, the curious power associated.
Yeah, I think it's a better choice than the Bishops as well, in that Earl Sawyer in particular is like staunchly against the Whatley's doings, whereas the Bishops are just kind of there.
Yeah. But it's pretty neat. Unfortunately, Seth Bishop is a freaking wimp though, and goes down like that.
I mean, he is actually just a dude.
He is just a dude.
Yeah.
He's got a gun though, because he's got 5 fists.
He does have a gun.
He does have a gun. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but now we're just gonna go with some story references. Go through these quickly. Just I'll read these out here on some cards. We have a few footnotes for them. Some of them just to give
Quotes
some quotes from the book.
Yeah.
So Armitage knew he would be meddling with terrible powers, yet saw that there was no other way to annul the deeper and more malign meddling which others had done before him.
That's what I tell myself all the time.
Yeah, that's my morning mantra. I say that 10 times in the mirror. Julie's like, can we go? And I'm like, no! I said it 3 times. On the village comments here, this is some stuff for the actual Dunwich village. It is hard to prevent the impression of faint malign odor about the village street, as of the massed mold and decay of centuries. And then the sparsely scattered houses were a surprisingly uniform aspect of age, squalor, and dilapidation.
I don't really read these anymore, but these are a big part of saying the part of why actually I think Blood on the Altar is such a well-liked scenario is the quotes that they've chosen, the flavor text on the locations especially, and the enemies do a really good job of saying the scene.
100%. For Dunwich Village, from Undimensioned and Unseen, It is always a relief to get clear of the place and to follow the narrow road around the base of the hills across the level country beyond until it rejoins the Aylesbury Pike. Afterward, one sometimes learns that one has been through Dunwich. So, just once again, painting the scenes here for that kind of thing.
Yeah, it tells you that Dunwich is like a little tiny town that may as well not exist in a lot of ways.
Yeah, like Thorsby.
Yeah.
Here's some more from Undimensioned. So the Watley Ruins, it was as though a house launched by an avalanche and slid down through the tangled growths of the almost vertical slope. I also like, even just like, it's nice to be able to take these from the books themselves, as Travis said. Like, actually reading the backs of these, especially on a blind play, does a really good job of setting the scene. And if you have it from the book, because these are actually all just places mentioned in the book, it's kind of nice. Mm-hmm. Devil's Hop Yard. Still others try to explain the Devil's Hop Yard, a bleak blasted hillside where no tree, shrub, or grass blade will grow. It's also a bad location to be usually, mostly because you're playing Undimensioned and Unseen. And then Cold Spring Glen. God, he gasped. I tell him not. Oh my God.
I told him not to go down to the glen, and I never thought nobody'd do it while them tracks and that smell of whippoorwills are screeching down there in the dark of Monday, noonday.
That sounds like Earl Sawyer talking.
Yeah.
Because when I was doing this, I was looking through and reading passages, and whenever Earl Sawyer talked, I was like, what the frick?
Yeah, no, he does a really good job of transcribing the accents.
Yeah, he really does, yeah. Sentinel Peak, it was here that the Watleys used to build their hellish fires and chant their hellish rituals, and as Travis had a little point here, this was where the original horror was exercised.
Yes, where the sort of the high point of the first story happens.
Nice, yeah. And then we have the creature's tracks. The sides of the roads shewed a bruising indicative of the blasphemous, stupendous bulk of the horror. This was the most reliable way to track the horror and the only evidence of its existence apart from the trail of its destruction. The large steps, which is cool to get that on an actual card too as well. And then we have our favorite, the whippoorwills. It is vowed that the birds are psychopomps lying in wait for the souls of the dying. If they can catch the fleeing soul when it leaves the body, they instantly flutter away, chittering in demonic laughter. So the whippoorwills are a repeated theme in the original story. They terrify the superstitious locals, their cries mirroring those of the dying. They herald old Watley's passing. They flock the farmhouse on the eve of Lavinia's disappearance. They're noted by Armitage on the way to discover Wilbur's corpse, and screech in unison with the horror as it cries out for its father. So basically, these birds ain't on the level. There's something up with them.
Yeah, Lovecraft goes through great effort to point out the whippoorwills and their cries and how they mirror what people are saying, even on Old Watley's deathbed in particular. The whippoorwills' cries sort of flow and ebb with his own health. Mm-hmm. You know, he has that period where he kind of regains strength a little bit right before he dies, and the whippoorwill's screeches become more vibrant. Mm-hmm. And then as he starts to pass away and his voice becomes more hoarse, the whippoorwills do as well. Mm-hmm. When the horror is screaming for Yog-Sothoth, and especially in the other language, the whippoorwills are making just a huge cacophony of noise.
Cool. Oh yeah. Good job, little birdies. All right, but we also have some other references within the campaign that go beyond just the Dunwich Horror short story. So, hunting horrors, like the one found in the museum, are servants of Nyarlathotep. They are sent to dispose of those who displease him, but may be otherwise summoned by the sacrifice of a sentient being. They are weak to light and may be destroyed by an extremely bright source. These creatures make their most prominent appearance in The Lurker at the Threshold.
Yeah, so these guys spend most of their time flying through space. Until Nyarlathotep sends them to do something. And it's not clear why this one is in the museum. From the information that we have, maybe it's Nyarlathotep trying to expedite the cultists' doings. Maybe Nyarlathotep is working for a different outer god, and he sent a different old one sent the hunting horde to delay the cultists. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's there to delay the investigators. It's also possible that the cultists summoned the hunting horde themselves. Mm-hmm. And maybe they intended the janitor guy, caretaker guy.
Oh,
Jazz Mulligan, potentially him as their sacrifice.
Or the security guy. Yeah.
Yeah, because notes on the hunting horror say that they require a sentient sacrifice, but if there isn't one, they will just eat the person who summoned them.
Well, you do find a body of either the security guard or the museum curator near the exhibit.
Maybe
so
it's
that's where it came from.
That checks out.
Yeah. Yog-Sothoth's command over time and space are shown throughout the campaign. This is some Yog-Sothoth lore for you. In the Essex County Express, Yog appears to intervene to delay the investigators sucking the train through a grate wherein a great deal of time passes. Also, just like the whole Lost in Time and Space, the final scenario, is something that appears a lot in Arkham, but associated a lot with kind of like the vibes of Yog-Sothoth here.
Yeah, the Essex County Express, I tried very hard to find something that's tied to some kind of lore, but there really isn't much. There's like one short story that relates to a guy who has a horrible dream, and he finds a train car with two people in it that are like presumably the conductor and the ticket checker, I think, and they turn into like a something kind of like the lupine thrall, and then the other one has just like a tentacle for a face. But none of those really line up with any imagery in this scenario. There isn't really anything about sort of steam beasts. Lurk with the Threshold that talks about trains a fair bit. I thought maybe that would have some sort of reference to it, but the trains themselves, for the most part, aren't particularly important. The only real note I found was that in one of the resolutions for the scenario, it's just when you if you get sucked through the gate, you're described as coming out with the train car being rusted and like had been there for years. It's a little bit weird. Yog-Sothoth isn't supposed to be able to interact very well with the universe as it is, for reasons we'll talk about in a little shortly here, but usually requires some other sort of invitation or help to do it, which makes just a gate opening in the sky a little bit weird. But that was kind of the most likely thing I could come up with for it.
Yeah.
So.
This continues with Yog-Sothoth. The Beyond and the Sorcery encounter sets depict the effects of Yog's power on the investigators and its erosion of their minds and sanity, and various treacheries such as spaces between and vortex of time demonstrate reality fraying at Yog-Sothoth approach. I think this a lot of the thing is like the encounter, like your deck in this one is kind of like that idea of your mind for this one. And then all the cards that discard are usually when you start going crazy due to Yog-Sothoth's influence, and that has the big capstone on the mechanic where beyond the veil you see beyond like the veil of reality, and
yeah, it's like mind shattering that is physically harmful to you.
Yeah. The conglomeration of spheres, these guys, their appearance is a reflection of Yog-Sothoth's traditional appearance and title The Key to the Gate Whereby the Spheres Meet. In contrast to the well-defined spheres, the Outer God's avatar, the Lurker of the Threshold presents as an amorphous black mass.
Yes, these are clearly designed around that where the spheres meet sort of title. You see that in some of the other artwork that they have for Yog-Sothoth, especially. Actually, I think it's the Eldritch Horror one. That's kind of a mix of the two.
Yes, yeah, like Arkham
it's like
Horror.
A black sort of slime, but there are like spheres in it.
Yeah, like second edition is like blobby spheres, yeah.
Yeah, which I kind of find really interesting in that Yog-Sothoth is described as sort of the spaces between, in that it's not really the spheres, but like the spaces between the spheres, and the spheres are just there to define it, I guess. Yeah, that's why the conglomeration of spheres, it's a little bit out of place in the story otherwise. It's just kind of there, right? So.
Yeah, but it's like, especially if you've played a lot of, like if we didn't know that the last thing was like called Lost in Time and Space, or there was like a quote from the Dunwich Horror at the start of this book, if you showed me a picture of the conglomeration of spheres, I'd be like, what's baby Yog-Sothoth doing here, you know? Like he just has that look to it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, it is, even the coloring of the spheres is very consistent with the old art for Yog-Sothoth, so...
Yeah. The various abominations in that campaign seem to be inspired by Lovecraft's description of Wilbur after his death. Below the waist, the skin was thickly covered with coarse black fur, and from the abdomen, a score of long greenish-gray tentacles with red, sucking mouths protruded limply. The thralls, which are still recognizable as their intended forms, have various body parts mutated and bloated, or outright replaced with hideous tentacles.
Yeah, you can see this, like Seth Bishop, or Silas Bishop, is just a big blob. The basic thrall has sort of like ballooning masses on its one arm and half of its face. The Servant of the Lurker is just exactly that. He's like a guy on the top, and I think he has like a mouth on his stomach.
And then he's like growing off to this like one
but
side.
He's got like tentacle legs coming off to the side.
And I like that too, because like he's like pretty corrupted by it, so it becomes like
He's
that.
pretty deep into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like also just like these thralls here also affected. It's a wolf, but he's turned into like a weird, messed up crocodile mouth as well.
You see he's got like tentacles for his like tail, kind of.
Yeah.
They're becoming a little more solid in fur, and like
I mean,
the
the thrall has a tail.
Yeah, the thrall has a tail. It's also kind of looks like it's kind of got some fur as opposed to feathers on its sort of chest area as well.
Yep. Yep.
So
Cool stuff.
yeah. It also has the those kinds of legs with the extra ankles.
Yes.
Those are also something that Lovecraft describes particularly about Wilbur's body and shows up on a number of these cards.
Hell yeah. I mean, that makes sense because I was looking for pictures of Wilbur because I was like, I want to see what people drew some stuff for this guy, and he had those.
There's a very explicit description of his dead body
Perfect.
when they find him. So
Perfect. All right, so these are, when Durwin Waits describes the summoning of Yog-Sothoth, which is often conducted in a tower or circle of standing stones. The sacrifice of a sentient being is required, as depicted in blood on the altar. The campaign events are stated to occur several months after the Dunwich Horror, which concludes in September 1928. It is likely the campaign therefore takes place in late April 1929, as it is said that the traditional times of summoning Yog-Sothoth are Lammas, August 1st, or May Eve, April 30th. So that means we're coming up pretty soon to another sacrifice period by the time this video comes out.
Yeah.
Do you guys
Pick an event and call it whatever Eve. Like, that's not. This is Tuesday Eve.
Yeah, it's Tuesday. Today's Thursday.
Yeah, it is
That's
Thursday
not-
Eve. Yes. I mean that's what it is, right? Eve is just short for evening. It's May evening. Like you can see at the top of the Sentinel Peak there, they got their standing stones, like the summoning of the snake guy from the museum.
Oh, the Hunting Horror?
Hunting Horror, yeah. They require Yog-Sothoth wants the sacrifice of a sentient being, which is they intend to sacrifice Silas, but then they're like, well, if we can just like kidnap one of your buddies, then we'll do that instead, or just like sacrifice them all. But depending on your outcome for that scenario, if you can like revert Silas, I think, which results in the first or the
I think he melts.
agenda used.
He melts. Like he dies like the original Dunwich Horror does.
There's three options. One of them is he like just dies and melts.
Yeah.
One of them you can like free him and he turns back into a normal dude. And one of them you like banish him to another world or something. And if you actually free him, then when Seth opens the gate at the top, the agenda that you use, he gets sucked through the portal.
Yeah.
So it like implying that Yog-Sothoth didn't get the sacrifice he wanted, so he's taking Seth.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right.
They saw
Additionally,
just like, you think a gun would stop me?
Yeah.
Yog-Sothoth, who doesn't have a gun, mind you, only has 4
No, he
attacking.
actually doesn't.
Yeah. But in Lost Time and Space, the investigators meet Yog-Sothoth on its home turf, a point where all time and space converge, their gravitational effect keeping it pinned. It is theorized that the outer god can manifest in time or space, but not both simultaneously.
Yeah, so the lore says that the elder gods potentially have, or is rumored that they have pinned Yog-Sothoth at a place where all of time and space converge, so he can't move.
Yeah.
Because he's so powerful, he can't be free to just roam around and do things. Another sort of link he has with the mythos is that it's said that he is endlessly pursued by Nodens, his mortal enemy. Yeah, and this sort of pinning of in the gravitational convergence of time and space is why it struggles so much to influence the world as it is, and it needs an invitation, or like it needs cultists to open the gate to let it in, to invite it into our reality.
Yeah. Cool. Even looking, I mean, I have a book like this too. Travis has this book. I have one too. I should bring it out next time. Yeah. Not just like.
There's lots of neat stuff in it.
There is. Oh yeah, yeah. All right. Still got some more references. The Powder of Ibn Ghazi. So the thing, Ibn Ghazi was an Arabian wizard known to Al-Hazred, author of the Necronomicon, and is credited with the creation of the powder of the Ibn Ghazi. So, know where your powder comes from.
Only other, well, I mean, there's some of these weird names, and like some of them actually are references to the lore. Some of them they just made up.
Yep. Yeah.
But
Yeah, some of them are just like, let me smash that keyboard.
Yeah, one of them's like the steps of Yardnash or something like that from the Lost Time Space. That's just something they made up.
Oh yeah, there's nothing.
Yeah, no, you search for that and you just get links to the card.
Perfect.
Yeah, Ibn Ghazi, he doesn't have a lot of screen time, as it were. He basically does something to displease the gods, and he gets his eyes and mouth sewn shut, and then he gets sent to the vaults of Zin to be a slave for the Shoggoths.
Seems like a bad deal.
Seems like a bad deal.
But luckily his powder saved the day.
Yes.
Yeah. So then also this was the powder that they used to get the first guy as well. Yeah. Which is kind of cool. But I imagine, does this say Ibn Ghazi, or did they add Ibn Ghazi to this?
They say Ibn Ghazi. He's the guy in there.
No, I'm sorry. I guess it in the Dunwich Horror short story.
Oh, in the... I don't remember, actually.
Yeah, so it might be one they just added. But no, that is sick that they actually,
I wouldn't be surprised if they did actually use his name, because I can't really think of where else it would come from and what context it would show up in.
Yeah.
But...
additionally, a Forgamon is believed to be a god of time and a potential avatar of Yog-Sothoth. It appeared in the Chain of a Forgamon by Clark Ashton Smith.
Yeah, this was like a little bit more... This is a name they didn't make up.
Yeah. And
This
Clark,
one actually was the reason I started looking these up, because we were wondering about this a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I do want to know if that's a real thing or not. But
and correct me if I'm wrong, but Clark Ashton Smith actually has contributed a lot to the mythos as well, right?
Yeah, he writes I actually like his stories a lot.
Yeah.
He does, there's a series of them he does that take place on Mars, and they're very good in my opinion.
Hell yeah.
Would recommend.
Okay, I believe we're done with the references, but we have a few IRL trivia about the Dunwich Horror.
Yeah, some meta stuff.
The fictional town of Dunwich is inspired by the countryside surrounding Springfield, Massachusetts, and in particular Wilbraham. The nearby Wilbraham Mountain is thought to be the inspiration of Sentinel Hill. I tried to find a picture of Wilbraham Mountain, but there was no good picture. There was one that I thought was a furry man hunched up against a tree, and I was like,
that sounds appropriate.
What the hell? But it was just a dog. Oh. I zoomed in. I was like, is that Bigfoot? Am I like seeing something I shouldn't know? It was just a dog. So I just went with Dunwich Village here.
I know this comes from some of Lovecraft's letters to his friends.
Nice.
That have been discovered.
Nice. Lovecraft's original story takes heavy inspiration from Arthur Machen's The Great God Pan and the novel of the Black Seal, most notably the union of a woman with an invisible non-human entity resulting in monstrous offspring. A classic horror trope as well, which is really always fun to see.
Yep, Arthur Machen and Blackwood are the two, seem to be the two artists, or two writers that Lovecraft takes the most inspiration from in his stories.
Well, yeah, it makes sense, because I think Arthur Machen's The Great God Pan is one of the things that is like considered to be one of the first like weird horror stories that exist, and like same with Blackwood. And you can see the inspiration of those, because when you're the first to start doing it, it's like it's going to lead to Lovecraft, which then leads to all this, which is kind of really cool.
Yeah, I have actually read those stories, and it's very easy to see where Lovecraft took his inspiration from and what parts of the story he pulled out and reused or borrowed. And but those original stories were definitely much less refined than Lovecraft's own.
Yes. Yeah.
Not that they're bad stories by any stretch. They just they don't fit the same sort of vibe that Lovecraft does.
Yeah, because
it's like the difference between like Robinson Crusoe and Treasure Island. Like, these two stories are incredibly similar, but one of them is good.
Yeah, and even on the note of like them being like the first weird horror, it's like it's still that Victorian ghost story weird horror.
Yeah.
Where it's still just kind of like it's spooky because it's not normal, but then like the extra context added into further things made it a little bit more what we consider to be like Lovecraftian horror today.
Yeah, but I know that Lovecraft isn't your favorite artist to read. You find his stuff to be a little bit dry, a little bit sort of meandering. But Arthur Machen's is like much more.
Oh no, I've read The Great God Pan. I've read The Great God Pan.
There's been a couple of stories for Arthur Machen I've read, and I like gave up. I'm like, I'm so fucking bored.
Have you read The House on the Borderlands?
Maybe.
You should check out that one, because that one is like, to me, it's even more weird fiction than this, and I think it's really good. You might dig it, but I agree. His is you're reading it and you're just like, stop talking about how this guy knows this guy.
Yeah, I've been sitting there reading for 20 minutes. I'm like, I don't even know what's happening. Man.
Yeah. It's always a good sign when that's happening when you're reading a book, when you're like, I don't think I've comprehended any of this for the last, like, 4 pages.
No, it's not great.
All right. The bishops are likely named in homage to Zelia Bishop, who most famously co-wrote The Curse of Yeg, Medusa's Coil, and The Mound with Lovecraft, which is super sick.
We're talking about her quite a bit in a couple months.
Yeah. Yeah, we are.
Yep.
Yep. To celebrate Dunwich Legacy Week, I hope you guys enjoyed this lore video, but we're going to be building some standalone decks to take on a scenario from the campaign. And unlike previous standalone decks, we're going to be building thematic decks that resonate with the lore of the Dunwich Legacy. So we're going to be doing that in this video. So I'm going to pause the video. We're going to decide our investigators offside the video, but then we'll get set up and we'll actually do the building and kind of talk through it. Or we might even just build our decks and then showcase the reasons behind them as well. We're gonna figure it out. But stay tuned. I mean, there's probably gonna be an ad break. Get some popcorn, because who doesn't love popcorn? And let's get thematic with it. All right, we have built our decks. I am bringing Daisy Walker, the librarian, and I have brought a one of pretty much like every tome that I could. There were like some that I didn't. But
especially the higher level ones.
Yeah. I just tried to get like one of each tome. I also brought my library pass with me. I brought one Holy Rosary because I feel like Daisy probably would be wearing a rosary.
Yeah, she's a cross-wearing type.
Brought 2 library docents with me because I'm carrying a lot of books and I need some people to help carry some books. They don't actually increase my hand sizes, but in theory they're with me carrying my books. Feed the Mind is one of the spells that I felt fit with this idea of the character, and then 1 backpack because you wouldn't have 2 backpacks, you would only have 1.
Yeah, but you need something to put your books in.
Exactly. I gotta throw the book at them because Travis and Bryn both said that I would need to, and it's 100% right.
Yeah.
Astounding Revelation. I actually don't have a lot of search effects in here, but I have like enough that it also can just like be a book if I need to. Burning the Midnight Oil has a book on it, so that was kind of I was drawn to it.
Yeah, she'd stay up late studying books and stuff.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Captivating Discovery, because and same with Cosmic Revelation, where like I discovered things during this journey. That's what these are here. And Ward of Protection, because I felt like I'd be like defensive spells as opposed to offensive spells, because this is my idea of offense, hitting the spider with the book.
Yeah, Daisy's not out here casting Gaze of Urach.
No. And then True Understanding here to, I think it just kind of fits with this Captivating Discovery, Cosmic Revelation. But this is my pile of cards, and I'm going to have a great time playing with them.
Hell yeah.
Bryn, you're Tommy, and we see a lot of police officers here.
So many police.
Yeah, we're bringing the whole force, and a dog.
2 dogs.
And 2 dogs.
As we've seen, they are super effective against dogs.
It sounds like they should be. So like let's do that.
That art, that's probably Wilbur's leg.
Probably, right?
I mean, like, if we said that this is like we're trying to get to the lore that we can, if we didn't include guard dog, that would probably be a mistake, right?
Yeah. We got combat training because we probably actually didn't get that in the Dunwich police force. That's probably like you're hired because you're the nephew of
The
Sheriff Digby or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, we brought handcuffs. They're gonna be useless.
Unless one of us gets a weakness, like
unless
humanoid weakness.
The mob enforcer shows up and you're under arrest.
I know this one.
Freeze! Yeah, but you have to have handcuffs. You're the cop.
You have to.
Tommy's got like a Yithian paint on the ground. He's got his handcuffs and he's just like,
what the hell?
What do I do with them?
What the hell?
Which ones do I handcuff? They didn't train me for this.
We got a charisma because we have too many cops.
Yep. Too many cops.
Too old in like 1 ally slot. So we'll have 2.
Yeah.
We got a sound support because I'm allowed to play it for being a warden, I guess, and I've never played with this card, and it seems very good for Tommy. Actually.
And you're leather coat because you're the cool cop.
Yeah, we're trying to be the cool the cool detective.
You don't say a cab, you say a cack. All cops are cool.
Yeah. You're dressing for the job you want.
Yeah, exactly. Not the job
like
I have
Roland.
right now. Yeah. We got breach the door because that's a thing the cops do.
Yep.
We got custom ammunition because Becky said we had to.
Yeah.
She likes her custom ammunition.
Yeah, it's like a whole thing. We got emergency aid because there's a cop in the art.
Yep. Yeah, checks
It's
out.
actually probably very bad here, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's not what we're here
That's
for.
okay. That's not what we're here to do today.
Yeah.
We got evidence because we're a cop and we find evidence. We got prepared for the worst because our only weapon is Becky, and this is like a concession to we would have.
Yes. Yeah.
Man, if I had a nickel for every time you've been like, we're playing this because we're a cop,
Yeah.
I'd have like 50 cents, man.
Yeah. Now we got reliable because you can always count on Becky. She told me so.
Yeah.
We got telescopic sight because it's a cool thing for Becky, and we got the scene of the crime because we're here to plant evidence.
Yeah.
Because those Yithians have done crimes they didn't know about, but we're gonna arrest them for it.
Yep.
We got self-sacrifice because
There's a cop on the picture.
in the art.
Yeah, you're also probably like Tetsuo's mentee or whatever.
Yeah,
Protege.
he's like, he taught me this one, and then we get shot, and we're like,
that
hurts.
But what happens is Tetsuo takes the damage. So like he jumps in front of you, jumping in front of them. Yeah, you're both
it's
get
like
down.
It's like some nested doll bullshit.
Yeah.
Like,
100%. Yeah.
yeah, we got to take the initiative because this card is sweet, and we are trying to impress our boss to get promoted to a different police department where there's actually anything happening.
Yes, where there's more than there's. Can I arrest some people as opposed to Yithians?
Instead of Yithians, like this is bullshit. They got more than 2 hands.
Yep. All right, Travis, you're bringing Kate Winthrop for this one.
Yeah, she's a scientist, and she's known for her knowledge about gates and stabilization or whatever. So, and we're just bringing like the entirety of the of our lab.
Yeah, I brought all the library. You're bringing all the lab. It's perfect. Yeah.
So we got our alchemical distillation here. This is something we were cooking up before that experiment showed up, but we're done now, and it does a thing. It also heals horror, so it might just be alcohol, but. We got our microscope. Can't leave home without that.
Nope.
A couple chemistry sets because. I mean,
How do you think you're making all this stuff?
Yeah. Also, like their levels are onion cards.
So, do you think you're just showing up and you're like, drink some of my alchemical distillation, and you're like, what is it? And you're like, corn water. And they're like, did you make this in a still?
Yeah.
We got our laboratory assistant because.
Yep.
Someone has to carry all this shit.
Yeah. Copy paste what I said about the docent. Yeah.
We are uncanny specimens. We've been picking up bits of like thralls and stuff and putting them in these neat glass vials. Haven't done anything with them yet, but they're in there. We got our lab coat because, like Bryn said, what am I doing? Am I heading into another dimension naked? No. We have our grant because someone at the Miskatonic University has to be well funded.
You know what my favorite thing about this is?
What?
You only have one extra above the hand slots.
So?
No, I like in terms of these decks. You know, I just love that this is. But I agree. You need to have this card.
Yeah.
You need to. Yeah.
It's a grant. It's not even a science. It's bullshit. Anyway, we got scientific theory because we are a scientist.
Yep.
It says in the name, I am a scientist.
Yep.
Also, we might be making some fist tests at some point. Stay handed because I'm a scientist. I'm real good at my job, and a lot of science cards don't do anything without this. We got our strange solutions. This is from Dunwich, and again, something that I was working on in the lab.
Yep.
We brought one acidic ichor because that seems like something to have.
Also synergizes with your scientific theory.
Yes,
wow.
It does. Wow. And also one restorative.
Empowering.
Damn, empowering elixir.
So
mostly
close.
because I need money.
Yep. I think we're all gonna.
I need money.
Money now.
Money, me needing a lot of.
We brought an exposed weakness because that acidic ichor, that's gonna burn like right through some Yithian skin or whatever, and then Tommy can just jam Becky in there.
I'm gonna have to find it first. I don't know where I put my gun.
Glimpse of Unthinkable because that's what we're doing.
Yep.
Mind over matter has a beaker on it.
It does.
So, ignore the crow and the eyes and stuff. Prax makes perfect. It's me.
Yep.
Analysis. It's me.
Deduction. It's you.
It's not. I mean,
No, that is.
it just has you fall at the top. No, we decided that of all the people who could be deductive, it's probably the scientist.
Yep.
Scientific method and all that. We got Eureka, Justin's contribution, because that's apparently what scientists say when they discover
It's
things.
the only thing they say.
It's the only thing they say. Eureka!
We got well funded because we are well funded, as you can tell from our grant, but also those people have lab coats, which I also wear.
Yeah, and realistically, you couldn't have all of this without being well funded.
No.
Of these, yeah, like it's all
Especially those laboratory assistants.
there. Yeah.
They're actually less expensive than my microscope.
Wow. Don't tell them that.
Hey,
Don't tell them that.
They know.
So, those are our 3 decks that we have here for our run, which is going to be later this week. We're going to be doing Lost in Time and Space, the one that we voted the best in our yearbook video, which hasn't happened yet, so slight spoiler on that one, but that's okay. That's a pretty minor thing there, but that's the scenario we're going to do. I'm going to have to remember that for the next campaign.
Enjoy the most.
Yeah. But I hope you enjoyed the lore for this one, and I hope you enjoyed checking out seeing these decks that we have here, and you're going to see them in action later during Dunwich Week. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let us know in the comments if you like the format for this as well, because we're going to have to do another lore video for these for Pat's Carcosa Week in the future. And then also Forgotten Age, when we have to talk about the Mound.
Yeah.
But you're looking forward to Scarlet Keys.
No.